Hello everybody, I hope you're having a nice day. So today I'm here to do a Q&A video. So I like to do these every so often and answer some of the questions that you guys want answering, because I know I don't get a chance to answer all your questions on the comments, which I always feel bad about, but it's just really hard for me to do everything. I tend to answer more on Instagram if you do ever have a question for me. Yeah, so today we're answering some questions on sewing related topics mainly. Alex asked you guys a few days ago if you had any questions for me, and I've got a lovely long list, so I'm going to go through those. Okay, so I've got them on my phone here. By the way, I'm wearing a silk cami, can you see? La la la. Oh, Jasmine is asleep next door. Poppy is here on the bed lying next to me. And yeah, I'm in my bedroom. Right, let's have a look. Right, I'm just going to go in the order that I've had them sent to me. So, Joe has asked, how often do you clean or oil your sewing machines? Well, at Sew Over It, because the machines get a lot of use, we oil them once a month, and yeah, that seems to be enough for those. I find that my personal sewing machine doesn't really need it that much, so I tend to oil it when I feel like it needs it, which is just a sense of sort of, yeah, if it's like, feels like it's not sewing as well as it should be. But I have to say I'm a bit lazy with that, and I do forget. It's one of those things that it'll just play up one day and I'll be like, oh, the needle's probably blunt, I can hear it is blunt, and you know, I probably need to oil it. So that's when I do my own one. Okay, Alexa asked, when you spot a fabric but don't have a specific pattern in mind, how much fabric is a good idea to buy, and how do you judge how much to buy of different fabric types? Okay, so it's this really interesting question, because it's something that I probably do subconsciously and don't really think about so much now, because yeah, because I just do it so often. But I probably always would, I'd never buy less than 2 meters unless I couldn't, but I very rarely would buy 1 meter, because the options for that are really slim, so probably just a silk cami like what I'm wearing. So I would buy either 2 meters or 3 meters, and how I make that decision is based on what I think that fabric would be suitable for. So for example, if I feel like that fabric would be great as a blouse fabric, so that would mean that it probably doesn't have too big a print, it's drapey, and it's quite lightweight drapey, it's not sort of heavy, then I would think, oh, that would be amazing as a blouse. And I know that most blouses I can get out of 2 meters. Our pussy bow blouse is 2.5, so if I'm thinking, oh, maybe that, then I probably would get 3 meters just in case, or 2.5 if I could. If I was thinking it'd be great for a shift dress, so if it was a very big print and it had drape, and it was slightly heavier drape, I think that the shift dress goes really well with a really big print, because it's such a simple dress. So again, I'd buy a couple of meters for that. If I was thinking, oh, this would be, for example, if it was cotton, if I buy cotton, I generally always make a dress out of that. So I'll either make a dress or a full circle skirt, and I know that most of our dresses or full circle skirt takes 3 meters. So I generally, yeah, would buy 3 meters of most cottons. I very rarely buy 2 meters of cotton. I hope that helps. I know it's a really hard thing to do when you're starting to dressmake and getting into that whole way of visualising your fabric and how it would work, and there is actually another question later on about that, so I shall talk more about that too. Okay, next question. Jennifer asked, I would love to know how to best, oh no, Harriet asked, how do you store your patterns, and if you're a biscuit, which biscuit would you be? Okay, so slightly off topic on sewing there. How do you store your patterns? So I have my patterns in these 2 big drawers underneath my sort of sewing chest. So I have a kind of sewing cupboard that has a couple of shelves in it, and that's where I keep my machines and threads. And then my sewing patterns I have divided into sew over it patterns, which generally aren't in nice packaging because I have all the original patterns or the worked on patterns or the patterns that have been tweaked to fit my figure or whatever it is. So I have all of those in clear plastic with like wallets with a popper on them, and they're labelled, and I have those in one drawer, and then I have in the other drawer all other patterns that aren't sew over it patterns. I don't know if that's the best way to store them. Probably a filing cabinet would be better, but I don't want a filing cabinet in my home. So this is a kind of half organised and half nice looking cupboard. So yes, that's that. And they're in my living room because I sew in my living room. And the biscuit question, if I was a biscuit, which biscuit would I be? I think I'd be a hobnob, because a chocolate hobnob, because those of you who are British, Peter Kay, the comedian, does a hilarious joke about a hobnob and how you can dunk a hobnob in a cup of tea and it doesn't disintegrate. So dunking your biscuits in a cup of tea is very much a kind of northern thing that I grew up doing. I don't know, maybe it's done in the south as well, but I always feel like it's a northern thing. And hobnobs are the best biscuit to be dunked because they can suck up the tea and they don't collapse, just like he says. So yeah, that would be my favourite biscuit because that would show that I'm a strong woman and I don't collapse under pressure. Okay, Jennifer has asked, I would love to know how best to choose the right fabric for a pattern. I seem to always get it wrong, especially if there's a print in the fabric. So this, I'll just go a bit more about what I was saying earlier, Jennifer, but basically with a pattern in a fabric, you're absolutely right. It's really hard to visualise what fabric would be right for which pattern, dressmaking pattern, and obviously a striking pattern can change that. So for me, if I'm making a simple dress, now by simple I mean something that doesn't have panels, lots of darts, details, pockets, it's very clean, so maybe it's just got bust darts, waist darts and a big full circle skirt like our Betty dress, or maybe it's like our shift dress, then I feel that they can cope with a big print. It will look good with a big print, the print isn't going to get chopped up, I'm not going to have to worry about matching, or if I am going to match, it's not going to be difficult. And yeah, those fabrics, those patterns, I always think look good with that because yeah, the print isn't interrupted. If it's quite a complicated pattern, so if there's lots of details on it, trying to think of something, probably something like our Rosie dress because that's panelled, then it's got a collar here, it's got thin straps here, tea dress as well, that's another one, that's got sort of panels and sections. I would tend to choose a ditzy fabric or a small pattern, so a polka dot or something which is a rather small print, or a plain fabric. So of course plain fabrics, I should say, go well with everything. Yeah, it kind of makes the dress usually more kind of day wearable, less fancy. I think it often can make things a little bit more workwear. Or more versatile in your wardrobe so that you can wear it with other things. But with prints, yeah, I always think about the size of the print and whether that would work. So when I go fabric shopping, I generally look at a fabric and I see what I'm going to make with that. And if you watch my fabric haul videos, you can see how I'm working that out. So I'll tell you, oh, I'm going to make this out of it. And then whilst I'm making the video, I'll be thinking, I could also make this, and often I usually say that. So I can sort of visualise it, and that is something that I think comes with experience. But also I think now that because of Instagram and also now lots of people are vlogging on YouTube, you can get inspiration from other people, so you can start to see what fabric they use for certain patterns. So if you follow hashtags, so if you use a hashtag for say sew over ultimate shift dress, you'll be able to then see all the options that people have done, and then that will give you more confidence to see what you could choose. So I hope that helps. Okay, next question. Casey's asked, I'm always drawn to floral fabrics, but I never seem to get it quite right for garment making. I'd love to know Lisa's tips for choosing the right pattern and fabric combination. Okay, so I've just answered that really. So floral fabrics, big florals for simple dresses, smaller florals for more complicated dresses. Obviously simple dresses can also have small florals as well, but yeah, Another thing as well that I should just add to that, I also think about the style of the dress. So if the dress is quite romantic, and by romantic something like Eve is a really romantic dress, it's fluted and floaty and free, then obviously it needs a relatively drapey fabric, although you could use a nice soft cotton lawn for that. But I often think with a romantic dress, I want big florals and big prints, because that to me is romantic. Little ditzy fabrics aren't romantic. They're pretty. Does that make sense? So I do think about that as well. What's the kind of flavour, what's the feeling of that dress? When I look at it, what do I think? And then I want to choose a fabric that makes me feel that as well. Slightly vain of me, she says, however, I would love to know her tips for showing off your me-made clothes. I love putting photos of my handmade garments on Instagram, but I always look quite awkward. I'd love to know if you have any modelling tips for those of us who are not used to being in the spotlight. Yeah, when I started out Sew Over It and I was being photographed, I wasn't really used to being photographed, and I used to think I was unphotogenic. Not photogenic, yeah, you get used to kind of knowing what poses are flattering for you. And if you look at all the photos that we have of me, and there's a lot, you'll notice that often I look down, because I've noticed that that's a really flattering picture, and also I feel more relaxed that way. So if you're not used to kind of smiling and looking straight at the lens, then look down or look out to the side. I think that's one of the best things you can do, or look down to kind of that area down there. But looking straight on the camera and feeling like you're confident is quite hard, so try not to look straight at the lens and do a kind of pose. You'll often always see me with my hand on my waist, and that's something, again, it feels natural to me to do that with photos now, because I love that silhouette of trying to kind of create a sort of small waist. So putting your hands on your waist, or one hand on your waist, can enhance that. So maybe have a practice at that. But what I tend to do when we're doing a photo shoot is we have a big mirror, the big mirror in our living room. I can see that. I can't really see when I'm being shot in the photo what I'm doing, but I tend to come into the room and I'll just have a little practice. And you've got to get over the whole feeling vain looking in the mirror thing. And if you can get over that, then you can, like, you know, go, right, okay, well, I'm looking like this, and actually my hair doesn't look right like that. It'd be better if it was balanced to the side, if my hand's out there, and I play around in the mirror basically. Also, having a photographer that you feel completely at ease with is very important. So certainly at the beginning, that was important. I think now I'm used to having the photos taken, it's less important for me, but I've worked with Kangan from the beginning, almost the beginning, and she knows me so well and she knows how to shoot me. So that obviously helps a lot. But yeah, Matt is less of a patient photographer. He will do it, but usually I ask him whilst he's going out to work, Matt, can you take a photo of me in this outfit for today? And he'd be like, Lise, I've got to get to work. I'm like, sorry. And then of course I'm like, no, I don't like that one, take it again. So I'm sure if you have partners that take your photos, you'll know that they get very annoyed. Okay. And Dory asked, how do you make a pattern work with knits, light knits and slightly heavier knits, so that you can have stretch in all garments, calling for wovens for comfort and to work out the fit issues? Okay, I'm not quite sure if I understand everything that you want to know there, but so you can't really make a pattern work for all types of knits. So if you wanted to make the shift dress, which we recommend is a woven, you need to use a woven fabric for that. You can get away with using aroma ponte, and that is often the case with a lot of, not a lot of patterns, but some patterns. So because it's got stability, it can hold a dart and it can hold a neckline and a facing. However, it would not work in a lightweight jersey, because the neck, you can't put a facing on that. The dart would distort and it just wouldn't, it wouldn't work. So whilst Roma Ponte will help a little bit with fit, it's not going to help massively with fit. So if the pattern is designed to be with woven fabrics, made with woven fabrics, then the fit has to be right, otherwise it won't work, whether you use it for jersey with Roma Ponte fabric or A woven, it's not going to work if the fit isn't right, because it's still going to distort in some way. It will be more comfortable if it was in a heavy knit like Roma Ponte, but it's still going to look quite right. So you can't really cut corners in that way. Obviously, if you're making a knit pattern, then you can. So what I'm thinking about when I'm sort of thinking, would this work in a Roma Ponte? I'm thinking, you know, if darts work with Roma Ponte, you can also use, so yeah, darts work. You can also put zips in with Roma Ponte, and we show you how to do this on our Sewing with Knits class. So you can actually do all of those things. So you can use Roma Ponte for certain things. I've made the Betty dress out of that, the shift dress. Interestingly, both are quite simple in fit, so they both work. But I would never make something like the tea dress. I don't think that would work, because that neckline is very plunging and that would stretch, and the seams underneath the bust would distort, and that panel in the middle that's meant to be very close fitting, I don't think that would work. So it wouldn't work with the Roma Ponte because the gathers would be, you know, too bulky underneath the bust seam, but it wouldn't work with a lightweight jersey because that central panel wouldn't be able to be sort of strong enough. So I don't know if I've answered your question there, but yeah, sometimes it doesn't always help you making it out of a knit fabric if it's a woven pattern. What's the best advice? Romy asks, what's the best advice you would give someone who wants to start their own business? That's very difficult to give one piece of advice. Definitely watch my video on how I started Sew Over It if you haven't seen that, because I talk about a lot of things like that in that. But probably make sure that you don't rush into it and that you really think everything through. So I think that one of the reasons why our business has been a success at the beginning was because I spent a lot of time planning and organising and thinking through all the different elements and all the different cost things, and thinking how I was going to get people there and how it was going to work. So I think organisation and planning are really important at the beginning, and I think those plans that you put together you should show to people, because they will spot things that you haven't seen because you're looking at it all the time, and if they're honest they will also pull it apart and tell you that it's not going to work like that, if that's the case. And that happened with me, and that really helped, because then I went back to the drawing board and I tweaked it and thought about it a bit more. So talk to lots of people about it, think about it a lot, mull it over in your mind. My best ideas are ideas that come to me 6 months before or longer before I do anything, because I think about them and I sort of tweak them in my mind as I'm thinking about them over time. So that's for starting business. Obviously there's loads of different tips for later on. Hope that's helpful. Okie dokie, I should have brought a drink, I'm getting thirsty. Mary asked, does Lisa have any favourite way of finishing the seams so the finished garment looks neat and lasts longer in the wash? So I would definitely say that French seams are the way to do that. So I rarely have the time to do French seams, but if I do want to make something special, or I know that the fabric is really amazing and I want it to last as long as possible, then I will French seam them. There is a video on how to do a French seam in our tips and tricks section of this channel, so you can check that out. Susan asked, will you be doing any little girl patterns, preferably 8+? So I have been asked this quite a lot, and yes, I will get round to doing that, but it's not going to be for a while, because I feel like I want to know what it's like to have a little girl and dress her. So at the moment I only know about having a little baby girl and dressing her, so I'm already sort of thinking about patterns and what sort of patterns would work and what I like in her baby clothes and what I get frustrated about. And hopefully at some point next year I will be able to release some baby patterns, and they won't just be for girls, they'll be unisex as well. But in terms of little girls, I'm not going to be doing that until Jasmine's a little bit older. So baby patterns tend to go up to sort of 24 months at the most, so 2 years, and then you're into like the little girl category. So you'll have to wait until Jasmine's that age. Not till she's 8, but until she's sort of a bit older, so that I can kind of see. And I feel that you'll get the best out of me then, because I will have tried and tested them, and I'll have a feel for what works and what I like, and that's always when my best designs come out. Obviously normally I just use myself and think about that, so this is a bit different. So I have to wait for my little muse to grow up. Okay. Okay, another Susan has also asked, how do you fix sleeves where you can't lift your arms? This is a problem, and it's difficult because it's not always the same thing. So it can sometimes be because the armhole is too small. So it could be that the armhole goes back too far here, and therefore there's not enough room. So maybe the back piece needs more, needs sort of more kind of growing forwards here. So if the armhole is almost, if the armhole is too wide at the back, if it goes back too far, that can cause that problem. Underneath, it can also cause that problem if it's too tight and too high. So when we used to make very close fitting lace wedding dress bolero type things with grown on sleeves, we often used to put a gusset underneath, which I know isn't the nicest thing, but that allows more room for your arm to lift up. It can also be because you've not got enough room at the back. So if you do this, which is often the movement you need with garments, so you need to be able to put your arms forwards. Not all garments will allow this kind of dancing, I was going to say behaviour. But yeah, if you can do this, if you can't do that, it's often because it's too tight across the back and you need more room, so down the centre back, and it's just, yeah, that's restricting you. So it's not always the armhole. Yeah, it's difficult to say without seeing, but try those things first. Okay, and Sarah wants to know the best tips to sew more quickly and efficiently. My battery is flashing, so I'm going to try and go as quickly as I can. I think the best thing to do is to prep everything the day before. So cut everything out, pin everything, get everything ready, thread up your machine, thread up your overlocker, and get your iron set up near, and then it's again all in the preparation, and then you've got everything to hand. Get your zip, get your feet, get your pins, and then the next day start sewing, because then you'll feel fresh and you're starting sewing with energy and everything's organised and ready, and you can just go away. So that's how I do it. That's my best tip. And Dulce, I think that's, or Dulce, sorry, that's Italian pronunciation, Dulce. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name. Is it okay to use stretch fabric on an ordinary pattern? I think I've answered that in the question before. So yeah, yes, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Generally, lightweight stretch fabrics, not at all useful with woven garments, but you can use Roma Ponte with some of them. There we go, guys. I hope that answered your questions, and I will do these every few months. So if you are watching this and you're like, damn, I didn't know that she was going to do this and I have loads of questions, we will do it again and give you a chance to ask some questions then. But for now, that's it. I am going to try and edit this before Jasmine wakes up, and then I can get it up in time for tomorrow. Next week I'll be showing you my makes, so tune in to see those. One is already done. Lisa's already given me one of the makes she's been helping me with, and it's gorgeous. Can't wait. I haven't actually tried it on yet, but I can't wait to. And yeah, my cocoa jacket is still not ready / cut out. Need to do that, but finding it quite hard to find the time to do that at the moment. So I hope you all have lovely weekends, and I will see you next week.